This has been the biggest nightmare you can imagine.
On a snowy February night, Lou Pelletier's 14-year-old daughter Justina was taken by ambulance from their home in West Hartford, Connecticut, to Children's Hospital in Boston. More than a year earlier, a team of respected doctors at Tufts Medical Center had treated her for mitochondrial disease, a rare genetic disorder that affects the power supply of human cells. In recent days, she was barely eating and had difficulty walking. Her parents hoped one of her longtime doctors, who had recently moved to Children's, could help. They could not have foreseen what would happen once Justina was admitted.
In the emergency room, unfortunately, a neurologist and then a psychologist with their own agenda decided to say what she has is in her head.
Justina was not seen by her longtime doctor. Instead, the doctors that did see her concluded her problems were mainly psychological. On the third day, they informed Justina's mother, Linda, of their new diagnosis.
They started discussing how they're going to remove medications from her. And I said I'm a little bit concerned about that. And they said we can do what we want to do.
Justina's father arrived the next morning. He and his wife told the staff they were taking their daughter to Tufts, where her primary doctor was.
But all of a sudden, as this was going on, there was 4 hallways coming into the nursing station. We can see security guards starting to come from every hallway. And then I said, this is not going well. We decided to call the Boston police.
Linda and Lou were taken to a room where they met with several doctors.
And in that meeting, they basically said that they were concerned about Justina's care and safety, and they had called DCF. And DCF was going to be taking over our daughter.
DCF, which used to be called DSS, the state's child protection agency, stepped in and insisted that Justina remain at Children's.
I couldn't comprehend that this could be going on in a hospital and let my daughter behind. I'm like, what is going on here, Lou?
Next thing you know, we're being escorted out of the hospital with the police. We could not come back to the hospital. Otherwise, we'd be arrested for trespassing.
In a matter of days, a difference in opinion between Justina's doctors at Tufts and Children's had escalated to a bitter standoff. At the urging of Children's Hospital, the State Child Protection Agency took emergency custody of Justina.
I just felt the most powerless feeling I've ever had in my life.
Doctors often disagree over the diagnosis and treatment of patients, but Justina's story reveals a new and contentious frontier in pediatric medicine. In the last 18 months, Children's has been involved in at least 5 cases where a disputed medical diagnosis led to parents either losing custody or being threatened with that extreme measure. Children's Hospital and DCF would not talk specifically about Justina's case, citing patient confidentiality, but records show that staff members at both institutions were concerned about allegations made by other providers that Justina's parents were disruptive and may have exaggerated their daughter's symptoms.
Many people are manipulated by these families.
Dr. Alice Newton used to be the pediatrician who ran Children's Child Protection Team. She played a major role behind the scenes in the Pelletier's case. Although she declined to discuss details of the case, she was willing to speak more generally about other cases she's been involved in.
From the parents' point of view, they might say, gosh, I was completely taken aback and surprised. But I can guarantee you that from the medical point of view, there's a lot of evidence or a lot of concern that is very clear.
Children's Hospital filed what are called medical child abuse charges against the Pelletiers.
Generally, what you have is a parent or guardian who is coercing or lying to physicians about symptoms, and physicians who are reacting by creating interventions like blood draws or tests or surgeries.
Medical child abuse can lead to grievous physical and mental harm for children. The damage can last for years or a lifetime. Newton's team is trained to look for signs.
A parent who is bringing a child frequently for medical care, maybe seeking medical care in multiple institutions, and a parent who generally is portraying a child as more sick than they actually appear when you meet them.
Complicating Justina's case was her particular ailment. Dr. Mark Corson, her doctor at Tufts, had given her a working diagnosis of mitochondrial disease. Mitochondrial is a fairly new disorder that can exhibit a range of unrelated symptoms, making ironclad diagnoses very difficult.
You know, when a child gets a diagnosis of cancer, everybody knows what that means. Most people in the lay world have never ever heard of mitochondrial disease.
Maggie Orr is a nurse practitioner who worked for Dr. Corson after her own daughter died of mitochondrial disease.
It's extremely difficult to diagnose. That's a problem for that family because they don't sort of have the protection, as it were, of having an official diagnosis. I mean, someone in another institution, someone else can say, no, I don't think this is a patient with mitochondrial disease.
I know I'm going to be yelled at today.
By the summer, Justina was still at Children's, still relying on a wheelchair to get around. Visits from family members had been restricted from once a day to once a week.
They make false accusations continuously, how I behave or whatever, and they lie and they say that I'm telling Justina this or whatever, and I give her a kiss and a hug and say I love you, and they go and say I'm whispering in her ear.
At the Pelletier house in West Hartford, Justina's 3 sisters kept her room looking exactly as it had when she left for the hospital.
She's in pain, she needs me. And a mother's job is to be there for their child, and I can't fulfill that. So I feel lost.
Newton, who ran the child protection team at Children's, has seen previous cases where parents have managed to deceive the medical system.
You know, I think we all want to think the best of people, but these parents are extremely manipulative and have their own motivations for their child's illness.
If something is really unclear, it's very easy to blame the mother.
Stressed out parents may appear to doctors as unreasonable or overly aggressive.
You know, physicians like to be the experts.
Dissenting voices aren't always welcomed. Or remembers dealing with a few imperious doctors when her daughter was suffering from mitochondrial disease.
The pediatric neurologist at Children's who I was sort of complaining about something, and he pulled himself up to his full height, and he said, he wasn't very tall, and he said, "This is the pediatric neurology service at Children's Hospital. We are the preeminent neurology service in the United States." Like, that's it. Like, that was all he said. Like, so shut up.
By December of 2013, Justina's hospitalization at Children's had stretched into its 10th month. Her case is a painful illustration of how in medical child abuse cases, once allegations are made, there is often no clear path to resolution.
You just need to be careful if you're looking at it from the outside in making a judgment about whether a parent is portraying themselves accurately or not.
She's not letting go of me. During the visit, she grabs my hand, squeezes it to the point my circulation's gone. She won't let go of me. She actually said to me last week, "Don't let me go in there, Mommy. I can't go in there anymore."